Okay. Hello and welcome back, everyone. We are exactly halfway through the event. I hope you're enjoying all the research and insights we've been having so far. We're now carrying on with a session on multilingualism and autism with Dr. Alexandra Perovic from the University College London. Oops, sorry. So, Dr. Perovic is an assistant professor in the Division of Psychology and Language Sciences at UCL. Her research explores language development in both monolingual and multilingual children and adults with neurodevelopmental conditions. And more recently, her work has expanded to investigating language difficulties in children and adolescents involved in the justice system. She teaches clinical linguistics and language acquisition to postgraduate speech and language therapy students. And together with colleagues from the University of Amsterdam, Tours, and Haifa, she has co-edited Language in Autism, which is an interdisciplinary textbook. And I believe oh, we can't see it.
You can't see the book. Okay, I'll show you. I just had it here, but I think you can't see it on screen. But I
Yeah,
will send
but
you the link.
yeah, thank you very much. I think you're offering a 20% discount at the moment on this book.
It's the
Yeah,
publishers have allowed us to offer 20% discount if you scan a particular code. So this is until the end of October. So it's a textbook, and I'll tell you more about it. So it's aimed at professionals working in the
yeah,
field with autism, so education professionals, linguists, speech and language therapists, psychologists. So it's a kind of wide, broad of professions, and it's written by all the top researchers in the field. So it's edited by the five of us, but we have people writing different chapters on different
okay,
language domains in autism. So
okay.
I'm very proud of this book.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your generous discount. I'm going to put later on the code that you mentioned in the description of the video.
Great.
And also, before we start with the question, I want to remind everyone that you're generously giving away a consultation to schools. So I understand it can be a consultation to staff, but also it can be a presentation to parents if you want to have a presentation about autism or neurodiversity in general, I guess,
And language. So language
and
is my
language.
specialty. Yes.
Thank you very much. So those of you who want to enter this giveaway, make sure to let me know on the Google form that's linked in the description and to comment on this video. So thank you very much for being here. And I think we have just an hour, so it's going to sound short for the amount of things we're going to discuss. But so to start with, could you please explain what autism is? Just a general, so everyone understands what it is. And also, when we talk about autism, we talk about a spectrum. So, what does it mean that it's a spectrum? And what are some of the signs that we can observe in autistic people?
Right. Yes. Yeah. You're right. It's best to start with the general description. So yes, autism is a neurodevelopmental condition. This means that it affects how the brain develops and how it processes information from early childhood. It's identified by two main characteristics. So differences in social communication and interaction, and also in repetitive behaviors and focused interests. What this means is that different social communication, how people connect and communicate with others, and with regards to behaviors and patterns and activities, people with autism may show special interests and show some special routines and patterns in their activities. It's quite common. Figures differ, so so some of the recent literature I was reading says that so worldwide it affects 1 in 100 people. Although a recent study was actually published in the Lancet in 2023, it shows that just under 3% of children aged 10 to 14 in the UK had a diagnosis. So that's about 1 in
Oh,
34. So it
yeah.
is quite common. And of course, older people and the elderly are much less diagnosed. So we have this disparity in diagnosis.
Okay.
Uh, as you said, it's important to keep in mind that it is a spectrum. Okay, so this means that there's an incredible diversity. among autistic people. So this means that they will have different support needs. Some autistic people may require minimal help in daily life, and some will require substantial and ongoing support throughout this lifespan. So, so for instance, when it comes to communication abilities, language and communication abilities, we know that about 30% of people on the spectrum are minimally speaking or minimally verbal, and others are highly verbal, but still may have some subtle differences and difficulties in some language domain. But we just have to remember that each person has their own unique mix of strengths and weaknesses. So there isn't one, one particular profile we can talk about. Also, we have to remember that many people have a co-occurring condition, which could be
Sorry.
ADHD,
Okay, yeah.
anxiety, or something like that. Okay, so it's not. We should not think about it as a kind of linear scale, mild to severe, as it were. We should think about more about each person having their own distinct profile and pattern of traits and abilities.
Okay. I think it's good to make the distinction that it's not like light to worse. It's more like
Yes,
different types. Like we have different personalities, etc. So it's
exactly,
differences. Yeah.
exactly. But now you asked me how one would notice what kind of things you could notice in an autistic person. Well, so the first thing probably would be social communication. So here, a person with autism may have difficulty reading social cues and body
Mm,
language. They may have challenges with taking turns in conversation, knowing when to say something, when to stop saying something. They may take language very literally, so they may miss jokes, non-figurative language like irony and sarcasm.
mm,
Um, they may struggle also how much information to share. Some of the information they share may be over-informative or under-informative. So this is kind of when it comes to language and social communication. In behaviors and interests, going back to those core characteristics I mentioned at the beginning, they may prefer sameness, they may prefer routines, and they may
mm,
become upset by unexpected changes. They may have intense and focused interests in specific topics and activities. They may, so this kind of, they may also have some unusual responses to different sensory inputs, so sound or texture or lights, etc. So so these are the kind of general characteristics we can think about when talking about how to recognize. But again, it's very important to think that there is no one autistic profile. So there is many autistic people have different patterns of strengths and weaknesses. And this is why we need clinical judgment expertise in clinical judgment that may go beyond standardized tests when coming to a diagnosis.
okay. Thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge as well those of you who are following us live. I see that Stephen has put already quite a few questions. Um, some related to Gestalt language processor, but I understand that it's something very focused, so you might contact him directly to discuss this. Do you want to
Yes, I
discuss,
will just expand a
give
little
a...
bit. Actually, this is so I'm not a speech and language therapist, but I teach on the speech and language therapy master's program at UCL. And in fact, just last year, we did have a session focused just on this Gestalt language processing, which is a new, well, not relatively new therapy. And we have had a discussion where I think about 5 or 6 speech and language therapists came to my class with our 60 students and discussed this and read different literature. So it is a big and complex topic. It doesn't seem that this therapy is supported by nice guidelines, okay? But many people know about it. So I think I would want to consult my colleagues, my speech and language therapy colleagues, to create some kind of an answer that I can share
I
with
see, yeah.
everyone. It's not something I personally would support straight away, okay? I think we need more research. I think there are quite a few research gaps in
Okay,
how efficient this therapy is. And as you will see from my interview today, everything I'll say actually is based on research. So I'm not saying anything that I'm not, that other people haven't thought about and tested
yeah,
experimentally. And yeah, so we need like in any health related topic, we need evidence base before we
yeah,
recommend anything. So I think the evidence base for this particular topic is not so strong right now. But I'm very
okay.
happy to create some kind of answer that I will check with my colleagues and get back
Okay.
to the person asking.
Thank you very much. And I think that's also one aim for this event is to have like research-based answers and
Yes.
evidence. And it's not just people saying, I think that, etc. So just to make sure everything is clear and there is no myth around anything.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. I think, well, actually, first, I didn't thank you for inviting me to this event. I think it's very
Yeah.
important for parents and for the general audience to understand research, okay, and make their decisions based on research evidence rather than, hearsay and anecdotal evidence. So, but as you will see in autism, in language in general, there are so many research gaps. So we are working at closing these research gaps. So we will know more. But so I'll kind of present in my answers. I'll tell you what we know about enough or in sufficient detail and what we don't know. And you will see there's a lot that we don't know still. Okay, but what I'll say, I will, I'll actually tell you. And in the end, I can share the studies that I've looked at. Many of these are meta-analyses.
Okay.
Maybe we can provide a list of these studies in the.
Yeah. Maybe we can
Yeah,
have a follow-up session at a later time.
maybe.
And
Yeah, yeah.
and so one question from Stephen as well. It's so some parents of autistic children wonder if it might be too overwhelming to pass on more than one language to their children. So in his case, it would be Chinese and Spanish. But these concerns can often come from doctors who tell parents to focus on the country's language, main language. So, for example, in England, it would be English. Uh, First, why do you think these doctors advise this? Why is it based on? And is there some truth to it in this word of warning?
Yes. Well, this concern stems from now an outdated assumption that multilingualism is somehow harmful.
Mm,
It somehow can overwhelm a person's language development, and that exposure to multiple languages can create some additional challenges, both to typically developing children, but also those with certain neurodevelopmental conditions, including autism. So this, but this is I'm very eager to engage in myth busting here. Okay, this is a myth, and now, it's based on this assumption that language is that multiple languages can be confusing, okay, to the
right.
child.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's kind of understandable, if you think that if the children already, if some children already have some communication difficulties, it is not. It's kind of seems intuitive to think that if they already have some difficulties, these difficulties will be made worse by exposure to more than one language. However, in the past, I think 20, 30 years, there is a lot of research showing that this is not the case. Okay,
Mm,
so it is not the case that children are suffering by being exposed to more than one language. So actually, I have a paper with a former student, speech and language therapy student, where so Eleanor Sharp, she's now a qualified speech and language therapist. We did a literature review, and we looked at whether there are detrimental effects on multilingualism, and we actually asked speech and language therapy therapists to tell us about what they think this was, what their attitudes were in regard to this question. And we saw that in the UK, at least, many speech and language therapists already practice this, and they tell the advice they do give to their clients is that multilingualism is not detrimental. I mean, but also it's important to note there are many potential benefits of being multilingual. Okay, so this is something also that Eleanor has stated in this paper. There are benefits in terms of social, cultural, developmental benefits. Being able to speak to extended family members, create
mm,
social connections with your family that doesn't live in the UK, with grandparents, etc. So these are really important connections that
yeah.
we want our children to make. So it's really that this is outdated, and the research showing, there's a lot of research now showing that it is not detrimental. Multilingualism is not detrimental. And in a way, I would like to talk more about the benefits of multilingualism that
Yeah.
I think we can also talk in the context of autism.
Yeah. Could you elaborate on these benefits?
Yes, okay. This is I'm very interested in this topic, and well, my children are bilingual as well. my home language is Serbo-Croatian, and many of my friends and colleagues are multilingual as well. So this is a question that we all grappled with when we had children. So we're all very happy that there's a lot of research coming out now in the past 2 decades, since Dr. Ellen Bialystok and her colleagues in Toronto started this very important line of research. So there are 2 particular points I'll focus on. So the research shows that multilingualism is beneficial for development of executive function skills and theory of mind. And I will explain what these are. But just keep in mind that both of these cognitive skills have been reported to be compromised in autism, to be weaker in some people with autism. So if we know that they are weaker, and we know that the multilingualism may help enhance them, then by not exposing autistic children to this other language at home means that we're practically missing an opportunity to provide potential benefits. So I think parents have to think carefully about whether they, when they're making this choice. So there wasn't literature on that. There wasn't enough literature focusing exactly on autism, but there is some now. So I've reviewed some studies in the past few years. So let's start with executive function skills. Okay, so executive function skills are I've got some. I was thinking about how to explain this to general audience. This is like our brain's management system. Okay, so these are the mental skills that help us plan, organize, focus attention, remember instructions, and handle multiple tasks. Okay, so we can think of it as the control center that helps children manage their impulses, switch between activities, and keep track of what they've done, what they're doing. And it's like a traffic controller at an airport. Okay, so these management skills can be challenging for typically developing young children, but also children and individuals with autism. So and there's now literature there's now research evidence showing that multilingualism can enhance these skills. Okay, and this is very, very important research. There's a study by I can actually put a link somewhere. By Romero and colleagues, I think in Florida and California, showing that they've worked with about more than 100 children aged 7 to 12. Okay. And they compared their executive function skills in multilingual children with autism and monolingual children with autism. And they found quite a lot of the findings really showed very strong effects, beneficial effects of multilingualism. So when it comes to inhibition control, they found the multilinguals were better at inhibition control. And this was actually a strong, although these skills were better in all multilinguals compared to monolinguals, both autistic and non-autistic, but the effect was stronger in autistic children. Multilinguals, which is really interesting.
This is already because of the gymnastics.
They found better cognitive flexibility.
Yeah. So it's cutting. Not sure if you can hear me.
Are really relevant for general academic outcomes for everyone. Okay, so the better executive function skills you have, the better your academic outcome is, your reading skills, maths, etc. So there are quite a lot of studies showing this for everyone. Okay, not but this study that I was mentioning here, that was published I think in 2024. They're focusing strictly on multilingual autistic children and monolingual autistic children compared to neurotypicals.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's executive function. I have something about theory of mind as well. Do you want me to go into that?
What's the theory of mind?
So theory of mind is our ability to understand other people's behaviors, attitudes, intentions. Okay. So
yeah, I guess that would be interesting. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And there's again, the better this ability is, the better strong academic outcome is again in typically developing children. So this is a very, very strong finding in the literature. There are a lot of studies showing that. And what you may be interested in specifically is that better theory of mind skills are also predicting reading comprehension. Okay, so I think we'll be talking about literacy later on.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth thinking about how to, enhance our theory of mind skills, because this is important for social communication, for interacting with other people, for understanding curriculum, understanding stories, understanding everything around us.
Yeah.
So, for instance, this study the Romero study was also showing that multilingual autistic children showed a more enhanced ability to apply theory of mind knowledge in real world situations rather than just, experimental situations tested in a lab. What this means, they perform better on understanding of basic emotions, on understanding mental states and complex social judgments. And these are really, really important in our interaction with other people. So, when we say perspective taking skills, this means we are able to understand someone else's views, someone else's attitudes. Okay, to understand that that's different, they may be different to ours.
Do you have
And this
any,
will, Mhm.
sorry, do you have any idea why speaking different languages can help in this aspect of understanding
Yes.
others? And yeah,
Yeah, this is a really good point. So basically, it's like if we understand that someone, so we understand that someone else speaks another language. So your languages are French and Japanese, right?
yeah,
And I speak Serbo-Croatian. So just knowing that there's a linguistic difference between us, okay, people have argued that it makes us understand that we have different points of view, right? So if this is a phone, if a word for phone is, it's describing this object, it's just a label. There's
yeah,
nothing inherently phone about this particular object. So children who are multilingual will understand this is just a label. It's an arbitrary label. Okay,
yeah.
and they're able to
Okay, yeah,
understand that because this relationship between language and meaning and the words that they learn, there can be different labels in different languages that they learn, that they're exposed to. So just going back to these benefits of executive function and theory of mind, if they are stronger in neurotypicals, okay, and and we know that these abilities may be compromised in autism, then bilingualism, multilingualism can provide some kind of a natural intervention. Yeah, without doing any formal intervention, you are exposing um, children, they are doing kind of this cognitive practice, by speaking different languages. And this can, as the research shows, this can cascade into improving social communication, which I think is really, really important. So, yeah.
thank you very much. So just to come back on some questions from Steven, so he's talking about various things. You said you would speak to your speech and language therapist colleagues to answer him, but just I don't know if there is you want to talk about any aspect, but he's asking about combining Krashen's comprehensible input, Susskind's affinity theory, and Gestalt's language therapy. So I don't know if you want
Right.
to.
I think these will be very specialized, so I will have to consult my speech language therapist on this as well. So I have the
Okay.
questions in the chat. I think it's better to not to detract from the general message here that multilingualism is beneficial.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to specific therapies, I will have to consult with my colleagues because I'm not a
Okay.
speech therapist. So we'll have to
Yeah.
see if that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. Thank you very much. And so now I would like to talk a bit more about literacy because that's the Grand Multi-Literacy event. So we know now that so speaking different languages is positive, is beneficial for autistic children. Um, and when it comes to literacy, so reading and writing, we also have the same kind of worries. So first, learning to read and write is not something that's acquired, it's learned.
Yeah.
So already it's difficult. It's only going to be even more difficult if we teach our child to read and write in different languages or maybe even different scripts or writing systems.
Yes. Well, I actually didn't know anything about this before you asked me to join here. So I did my research. Um,
Thank
and
you.
because there was not, I know there's very little research on this topic, okay, especially with regards to autism. In the book that you will, that hopefully some people may access, we have a special chapter on reading in autism.
Ah, okay, yeah.
But the authors did not talk about multilinguals. There's one chapter on multilingualism, there's one chapter on reading, but they're not being combined. So I actually didn't know the literature. But I did find one meta-analysis. So this study, Bailey and Arculi from 2021. So they did a
Okay.
systematic review. So all my
Okay.
information comes from this study that was published, I think, in Autism Research. So they say the research is still extremely limited. They only reviewed 19 studies. But
Okay.
luckily, we have enough information for our audience today. Okay,
Thank you.
so they say that this, it's not overwhelming. It's not overwhelming for children. That they, in their review, they found that autistic children successfully learned literacy skills in various writing systems and various languages. So the studies they reviewed included alphabetic languages like French, Turkish, Greek, syllabary languages like Japanese, hiragana, and logosyllabary like Chinese and Japanese kanji. So the studies shows that, so I can actually give you some specific findings here. They said that phonics-based instruction works across languages. Okay, so children with autism benefit from explicit teaching of letter sound or character sound relationships in multiple languages. I think this is really important to remind the teachers as well, not just the parents here. And they had similar success to typically developing children. So
Okay.
whatever worked for typically developing children also worked for autistic children. They were generally effective. For everyone, some adaptations may be helpful, the authors say. So for instance, what they suggest is that explicit instruction is very important. Okay, so unlike neurotypical children who may pick up reading just through exposure, through passive exposure, children with autism needed direct systematic teaching in any of the languages studied here. They also mentioned that teaching explicitly the links between how words look to how they sound was effective. So explicit teaching is very important. And the methods with clear steps and consistent patterns, adhering to some routine was also very successful. So I think they also said, this is something that we can link back to the theory of mind, is that in some of the parents, I think it was mainly parents, I think it was, actually, I'm not sure. One of the promising approaches, they said, was including particular reminders about characters' mental states, feelings, emotions, intentions. Because when you're reading a story, something
Yeah.
happened. Why did it happen? Why did the cat jump? Because the cat wanted to catch a mouse. So
Yeah.
this intention is important to recognize. And if when reading together with the child, or being engaging in any kind of literacy activities, this kind of pointing out the intentions and maybe some emotional reaction to an event is very
Okay.
important. So in our study on narratives, actually, that I just presented last week, last week in France? Was it last week? I can't remember now. Time flies. We talked about how multilinguals with autism were able to interpret kind of general mental states of characters in a story when they retold the story. But some things were more difficult, and exactly this, identifying the intention of a person, why they did what they did and how that affects the mental state of a character in a story. So I think when reading together with your child is a fantastic opportunity to point out all these different things.
Yeah.
Focus on mental states, emotions,
Okay. So I guess
intentions.
not just reading the story, but talking about why people or characters do this and that is
Exactly,
helpful.
exactly. And then you can relate this to your own experience. What would your younger sister do in this situation? Or why would you do this,
Uh,
or your best friend, when they're hurt and this. So you can really
yeah.
communicate this and use your home language and use stories from your home language and cultural traditions. I think it's always good to link everything that you do at home
Yeah.
with your personal point of view. So some people, I know some therapists would also recommend, creating little stories where you use pictures of your child and your family being engaged in different activities. So you can create, rather than just using books that are available, in shops, you can create your own books. And I think children really like that. So repetition of those stories would be very, I think children would like that very much.
Thank you very much. And one thing that you mentioned as well, that we have to be explicit about. So
Yeah,
when we teach reading and writing, we need to be explicit because they won't pick up things just by being exposed to it. That's also something that Dr. Annie Chang-Ang has mentioned in the interview we had this morning. So if anyone is interested in practical ways to do this explicitly with different languages, we focused on the Chinese language, but we also talked about Spanish, French, etc. So you can watch this video to get some concrete ideas as well.
Sorry, can
And
you just repeat that again?
so,
To have some specific instructions, you mean? Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So there are, this is, yeah. So these papers that I've looked at, they didn't have anything specific, for parents, but they did say that you have to be consistent in your approach, and that the systematicity and explicitness do help. And I was thinking about how, you said what can, we know that children can be successful. Okay, so that's not a question anymore. They can read, they can learn to read and write in all these languages. So that's not a problem, okay, whether they're autistic or not.
mm,
Now, what is specific to autism, what this research says, is that passive exposure is not very helpful. Okay. So autistic children do need direct teaching. So you can also, and also what's important is what seems to be effective is using phonics-based approaches that explicitly teach sound letter character relationships. And what also seems to be beneficial is to break these activities into small, manageable steps. So it's clear for the child what they need to follow.
okay,
It's
yeah,
also important to build on your child's strengths. So you as a parent, you know best what your child is most interested in. So if they
yeah,
have a special interest in, I don't know, musicals, cars, or whatever, you can always link this reading experience with these specific interests and find books on that topic or create
mm,
books on that topic. Um, and depending on what your child's strengths are, if they have very good visual phonological skills, then you can include that, create pictures, create particular sounds, rely on certain sounds, etc. So I think, connected to the child's strengths and interests. If the child loves music, you can always find something, you can work with that too. I think
yeah,
that's important to. Some other things that I also found here is that you can, it's not wrong to switch between languages. And I think this is another parent's concern. So you
yeah,
use whatever, some children acquire these systems simultaneously. In that case, you can start simultaneously. Some children, like depending on your family language policy, if you just focus on society on home language before they are being exposed to school, etc., then so you can. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. I think you can use both languages that the family is comfortable with.
yeah.
Is this answering a question, or have
Yeah,
I
yeah,
missed
thank you very
something?
much. It's a lot of, yeah, concrete ideas as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so another thing I wanted to ask you is, so, um, yeah, wait. First, we talked about what we can do with children. Um, we have another question. So let me read. I just Oh, so a question from Germaine, who is following us live. She said, I had a student with autism who was pulled out of the Spanish bilingual program and transferred to an English-only program. So, yeah, because she's based in the United States. His mother valued their home language and taught him to read in Spanish well. Ah, yes. So I think because he was taken out of the bilingual program, the mom
Hmm.
decided to carry on with Spanish at home.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people would tell it's the strong home language skills are crucial. We the strong oral language skills are very, very important. So this will translate into so support you support literacy development in your home language. Um, on the other hand, it looks like people say that quality is more important than quantity. So find so the activities that you engage with will have to would be, that when they have to be explicitly taught, etc., rather than just passive exposure. So all this is relevant and useful, but I think you also asking what not to do. I think what teach. I mean, I'm not a teacher. I mean, although I did train to be a teacher in former Yugoslavia, but then I came here and did psychology and linguistics and went down that path. I think it's important to just teaching vocabulary as in a list is not relevant. It's not really useful. It's best to
Yeah.
introduce meaningful text, meaningful context for these words. Way to teach words in context where they appear rather than just, I think I remember actually for spelling, one of my children brought all these, words out of context. But I think it's much more
Yeah.
useful when you know which context this word can appear in,
Yeah,
right?
because it's not just learning the spelling, but also the meaning. And when you learn it in a story, for example,
Yeah.
you learn the whole story at the same time. It's not just focusing on one word at a time.
Exactly, exactly. So I think it's also useful to have a conversation about texts, before and after reading, to talk about meaning making, understand the meaning is crucial, rather than just reading, because we know that some children, those who have very good reading skills, they may, if they are hyperlexic, they can have very good decoding skills, but they may not really understand much of what they've read. So, I think focusing on understanding the text is very, very important.
I
And
guess
I'm sure
that's
many teachers in this audience will know better than, more than me on this topic.
but I think it's also an advice we should give to for all children, not just
Yeah, that's true.
autistic children, because like even those who are not autistic, they would enjoy a
Yeah,
lot more the lessons, remember more the words if it was in context than just taken out of context. And
absolutely.
uh, Jermaine is adding, I appreciate your suggestion of developing literacy. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Um, and so another common question we have from parents when it comes to teaching different languages, so the home language and the school language, is whether they should teach a child to read and write in the home language before, at the same
Mm.
time, or after. Do you have any suggestions for autistic children or?
I couldn't find any information on this. Okay. There wasn't information on what's the optimal time to do that. And in fact, I didn't, with my own children, I didn't know what to do either. Well, this was some time ago.
Yeah,
But then, so just on the basis of the research evidence that I looked at, basically they say that early literacy instruction works. Okay, since some of these studies, in the study by actually I should give you the reference with this meta-analysis from 2021, they said that children young as 4 learning to read and write in Japanese hiragana were successful.
mm,
So it looks like early instruction is totally fine. And there's no evidence that waiting is necessary, which is what I did. I
okay.
thought, exposing my child to Cyrillic alphabet may be confusing, especially because in this country, children start reading quite early. So I think
Uh,
it all depends on the context. So simultaneous development is possible. So there was a study that looked at that worked with children in bilingual schools. They successfully learned to read in both German, Italian, French, Greek, etc. So parallel development does seem to work. So on the basis of studies that are reviewed in this meta-analysis. So, your decision, every parent will decide for themselves. But I think what's something that is important to bear in mind is how strong the oral language skills are. Okay,
yeah,
so if they are if they're stronger in the home language than in the societal language, then you start reading in the home language, right? That's kind of
yeah,
intuitive. Um, if you can provide systematic and explicit instruction in the home, so let's say in this country, well, that's the thing. In this country, we start school at 4, but in other countries, it's not before 6 or 7. So parents have more
yeah.
time, as it were, to immerse the child in reading in their home language before they start school. And also, I think in the studies also say if the home language uses a very different writing system, so Chinese characters versus English alphabet, and the home language is really strong, then also this literature seems to suggest you can start with home language first. Okay.
Okay.
But then if the child is good in both languages, if there's simultaneous exposure, then you can start simultaneously. That's the basis. That's what these studies show.
Okay.
And also, I think, but still, don't start before your child is ready. I think
Yeah.
that's
I think
something that
that
all
that's
teachers would agree
yeah.
with me.
For any child. I know with my sons, just to share a little anecdote, but with my eldest, so now he loves reading. But when he started school and he started to read a bit in school, every week he had to come back with a book to read, but he didn't really enjoy it. And so at that time, I thought, okay, he's starting in school, so maybe I start as when we're going to Korea at that time. So I thought, okay, the environment is in Korean. I'm going to start teaching him Korean. So we're doing like with the body, we're making letters, etc. He was enjoying all these games, but he wasn't interested in reading. And later on, I think when he started to be interested, like seeing me writing messages to my family, for example, that interested him. He, the fact that he enjoyed some stories, but when I wasn't here or my wife wasn't here, he couldn't access these stories, made him understand that, okay, actually it can be useful to read. And from that, then on, then he became more interested and it went really smoothly.
All right.
So I think, yeah, like you said, we don't do it before they are ready. And also we take into account their motivation because if
Yes.
they, even if they're capable, if they don't want to, it's going to be a lost
Yes.
battle.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I think this, how interested or how ready the child is. This is individual variation. So, for instance, in my country, we use both Cyrillic and Latin alphabet. So, but when the country split up, so some, there was a preference for
Yeah.
one or the other. And my cousin was saying, in Croatia, in Croatia, you weren't using Cyrillic alphabet as much, but her kids were interested in Harry Potter, and she only bought the books Harry Potter books in Cyrillic. So the kids had to learn Cyrillics in order to read the books they really wanted to read. So I think you can really use their interests, to
Yeah.
expose them. But actually, I wanted to say, yeah, individual variability is something we have to take into account. But they did say in this study that I was mentioning, they did say the writing system differences matter. And some of our audience speak and write Chinese. So they said the research showed that children needed more extensive practice with characters. So starting
Yeah.
early may help, but may require more consistent and systematic instruction. So it may be easier for, like when you use Latin script in French and English, but if your home language is Chinese, then you may want to spend more time. But for Japanese, for instance, they say studies show the success with explicit syllable level instructions. This means you could start when the child shows phonological awareness. So there may be certain differences depending what kind of writing system is used in each language. So I'm going to give this reference. So if parents are interested in looking at this study in more detail, I'll provide a reference. But in any case, what they suggest is the start when the child is ready and when they show
Yeah.
an interest. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I was wondering if there was anything, because we covered speaking, literacy. Is there anything we haven't really mentioned that you think is important for our audience to learn about or to keep in mind?
Yes, this will come from my expertise in language. Okay,
Okay.
so you will see in many cultures, it's not the case that autism is not diagnosed early enough, for instance, or different professionals or different or parents may even be hesitant to seek diagnosis, and that's the case in my countries, unfortunately. So oftentimes people just wait without and they kind of miss this critical period of seeking intervention. And we know that language is crucial. So I would just like to emphasize the importance of language skills and working on language skills if they are delayed. So research has shown that language abilities are the most powerful predictor of your child's education, quality of life, whether they're growing up multilingual or not. Okay, so language
Hmm.
skills are really, really crucial. And research consistently shows that language abilities are the best predictor of how well autistic children will do socially, educationally, and also in building relationships with their peers, with their family, with everyone else. So, you know, we know many, of course, it's the case that when language is delayed, that's when parents seek help. Okay, so delayed language is the first symptom of something not going according to schedule. So this applies to both monolingual and bilingual children. Of course, there is there's a danger of overdiagnosing a language problem or underdiagnosing a language problem with
Yeah,
multilingual children. So we have to be aware. But there's a certain number of kids who will be autistic regardless of multilingualism, and there'll be some variation in how quickly a child develops in terms of language skills as well. So
yeah,
we have to we have to consult clinicians as early as possible.
yeah,
And also, in many clinical settings, language, the clinicians, when coming to a diagnosis of autism, they don't pay enough attention to language. So I think it's very important to know that even when language is evaluated, there may be some subtle differences in different language domains. Okay, so we talk about grammar, we talk about pragmatics, the use of language in context. We talk about semantics, and so there's different language domains that can be affected or compromised or stronger in different children and adults. So pay attention to, so for all clinicians and for all professionals, I think pay attention to language, and then parents can help a lot with their child's language development by reading, by immersing them in different multilingual or monolingual environments. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, I think I'd just like to say that. And also
yeah.
when it comes to speech and language therapy, the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists does encourage exposure to home language as well as societal language. And they also encourage assessment in both languages. Of course, that depends on resources, but I think whenever there's a language difficulty, seek advice as soon as possible and immerse child in both languages. That's what I'd like
I
to
guess
say for the
it's,
end.
thank you. But it's so important as well that the professionals who are advising parents are aware of what multilingualism is. Otherwise, like you said at the beginning, they can fall into own beliefs that have been proven to be wrong,
Yes,
and they might be advising parents wrongly. So
yes, yes. That's true, unfortunately. But in this study that Eleanor Sharp, my student, and I did a couple of years ago, many SLTs in the UK were aware of the advice, of that bilingualism is beneficial, and it looked like that was relevant to how long ago they trained, how much continuing development, how much they engage in continuous development. So I think in this country, I think we are very aware of this advice. In other countries or in other communities, they may not be so, like
yeah.
in many countries that I know of, because I work internationally. So I think, yes, I think parents should also be aware, and I think it's a good thing that they are.
Thank you so much. That was quite a lot of information.
Yes.
Uh, but I think it's I guess all the essentials that parents need to know. And we have your book. So just to remind everyone, I'm going to put the code I think you sent me by email. I put the
Okay.
code in the description so that parents can access your book with the 20% discount. Thank
Yeah.
you so
I can
much for
share if you
this.
want. I can share the screen with my email as
Ah,
well. So
yes,
if
maybe,
anybody
yes.
wants
So,
to email me, and can you see? I
yeah,
think I'm screen sharing. This
uh,
is for my presentation. Hang on, let
yeah.
me just show the
So,
slideshow from current.
ah, yeah,
Can
we
I
can
do
see the
this?
cover of your book as well.
Yes. Okay. So this is the book. Okay. So my courses, co-editors, Janet Schaefer from Amsterdam, Rama Novogrodsky from Haifa, and colleagues from Philippe Prévost and Laurie Thaler from University of Tours in France. So if
Okay,
you scan this,
QR
you
code.
can use the promo code. This is Wiley Blackwell textbook. So, but as I say, we are just the co-editors. We have written the 3 chapters ourselves, but
Okay,
many other experts on the topic of language and autism have written their chapters here. So it's a really good cutting edge research guide to what we know about autism right now.
thank you so much.
You're very
And
welcome. Thank you for having me.
no, thank you very much. And so just after, we're going to have a last interview, so in about an hour and a half, with Ricky Maggie, who is a dad who is raising his children with English in Spain. So we're going to see the difficulty of teaching English as a home language when it's reading and writing. And also, he's going to be talking about the online school he has founded called Next Level English. So if you're interested, I invite you to join us. And yeah, so thank you again so much, Dr. Perovic, for being here with us and sharing about autism and multilingualism.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I enjoyed it very much, so thank you. And thank you to the audience for listening. If you have any other questions, email me. I'd be happy to come back to you.
Thank you so much.